Hello and welcome to Super Great Kids Stories, wise tales from storytellers around the world, which will make you laugh and sometimes cry. Recommended for ages 5 to 105. I'm Kim and I love stories. Today we have a funny story called The Cat That Ate the Palace, told by Tim Ralphs, who recently told you The White Cow, which is a tale from Mexico. How are you, Super Great Kids? I'm very pleased because lots of storytellers have been coming into our studio to record stories, so I've been catching up with some old friends and collecting some more wonders from around the world for you. Hurrah! Also, it's getting closer to our Super Great Live show in London and to our new monthly online show with Jason and Amy. And if you're coming to our birthday show, then feel free to dress up as your favourite character. And if you can't come because you haven't yet learned the spell for flying and you don't live anywhere near London, then feel free to send us a picture of your favourite character or show it to us at our online show on September the 14th. Another reason to be cheerful is that today we have a cat story. Do you have a cat? Meow. I used to have a cat called Smudge. He arrived on our doorstep one morning. We fed him and he never left. He wasn't particularly good looking, but he was quite affectionate, especially at meal times. He had a very bad habit of yowling rather loudly early in the morning when he wanted his breakfast. I love the way all cats have their own personalities. This story is about a little cat with a big personality. I don't think you could call it a sweet little cat. Have a listen and see if this is the kind of cat that you'd like to adopt. Just before we hear from Tim, here's a little question for you. If you were telling a story from our podcast, which baddie would you put in your story? Would it be a witch, or a giant, or a stepmother, or even a monster cat? Have a little think about that while we have a quick word with the grown-ups. Ready? Off you go. Hello, Super Great Kids. I'm back. Did you decide which baddie you'd put in your story? I wonder what you went for. Did you go for a red-eyed wolf, which howls, or a beast who wants a feast, or a galumphing giant? Well, now, it's time for our story. So let's give a very warm welcome to the terrific, talented Tim Ralphs, all the way from Nottingham in England.
Well, hello, you super great kids. I hope you're ready for another story from me, Tim Ralphs. This is a story that's set in a palace, and bits of this story will happen again and again. And if you're the kind of people that like joining in while you're listening, feel free to join in as you learn all the words. Okay. Once upon a time, there was a palace where a king and a queen lived. And you might think that it'd be loads of fun to be the king and the queen and live in a palace, but I tell you, they were bored. All day, it seemed, they had to sit on their thrones, listening to, their barons and their earls and dukes and counts, all complaining, moaning about what life was like in the kingdom. And then the advisors, the courtiers, the wise people who were meant to be giving them good advice would just drone on, blah, blah, blah. Well, one day, it was too much for the queen. She got up off her throne, hoping no one would even notice, and she left the throne room in the middle of the palace. She walked past all the guards that were there in their clanking metal armour. She walked past the servants that were mopping the palace floors. she walked through the palace gardens where birds and bees made their nests and their hives. She walked all the way to the palace kitchen, and there, right at the back, in the corner of the palace kitchen, this was the reason she'd come all this way, a little cat. Now the queen, she went to the pantry, and she took a little silver dish and a bottle of cream, which she poured onto the dish, and then she laid it down in front of the cat, and the cat put out its tongue and lapped up the cream. And the queen, she knelt down and she smiled and she said, "Oh, nothing cheers me up like seeing a sweet little cat." Now, the thing you need to know about this cat, Super Great Kids, is yes, it was little, but it didn't like it when anyone pointed that out. As soon as it heard that word, little, well, its tail began to twitch, and its ears folded back, and it said, "Little? Who are you calling little? I've lapped up this dish of cream, and now I'm going to eat you." And the cat ate the queen. And then it put out its feet, its paws, and it went padding along the kitchen floor. A paw, a paw, a paw, a paw. Well, also in the kitchen there was the cook. The cook was in charge of all the meals, chopping the vegetable and the meat and keeping the fire going. And you probably know when you've done cooking, you have to wear an apron or you get all the flour and things on your clothes. This cook had on her apron, but she never did up the strings at the back, so they dangled down behind her. And the cook paused and saw the cat and said, "Oh, it always cheers me up when I see a sweet little cat." Oh dear. Its tail started to twitch, and its ears folded back, and it said, "Little, who are you calling little? I lapped up the dish of cream, I've eaten the silly queen, and now I'm going to eat you." And the cat ate the cook with the dangling apron strings. And then it put out its paws, and it went padding along its way. A paw, 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 a paw. Well, on the very far side of the kitchen, by the ovens, there was the pastry chef. The pastry chef with his little beard and his bright eyes, the pastry chef who made all of the biscuits and the cakes and the pies for everyone in the palace. And the pastry chef, he was rolling out some dough when he saw the cat. And he put down his rolling pin and he said, "Ah, it does not matter how bad my day has been. When I see a cat, I cannot help but smile, especially one which is so cute and little." "Meow," said the cat. Its tail began to twitch, and its ears folded back, and it said, "Little, who are you calling little? I've lapped up the dish of cream, I've eaten the silly queen, I swallowed the cook with the dangling apron strings, and now I'm going to eat you." And the cat ate the pastry chef and his rolling pin. And then it put out its paws, and it went on walking. A paw, a paw, a paw, a paw. Up the stairs it went. It walked out into the palace gardens, and the palace gardens were filled with fruit trees where birds had made their nest. It was full of beehives where bees were buzzing away to make honey. And as the cat went pawing, padding through the garden, the birds and the bees, they buzzed and swooped over, and they sang and they buzzed, and they said, "Oh, isn't it a treat to see a little cat?" Meow. Its tail began to twitch, and its ears folded back. And it said, "Little, who are you calling little? I lapped up the dish of cream. I've eaten the silly queen. I swallowed the cook with the dangling apron strings. I've eaten the pastry chef and his rolling pin. And now I'm gonna eat you." And the cat ate the cute birds and fuzzy bees from their buzzing hives and fruit trees. And then it put out its paws, and on it walked, a paw, a paw, a paw, a paw. It walked into one of the palace corridors, and there were all the servants that were responsible for cleaning. They had buckets of soapy water. They were dipping mops in the water, and they were splashing it, sploosh, splash, splish, this way and that as they cleaned the palace floor. But when they saw that cat, they stopped working, and they all began to sing, "Oh, however hard we have to work, nothing makes us smile like a sweet little cat." Oh, that cat! Its tail began to twitch, and its ears folded back. Oh, dear. "Little," it said. "Who are you calling little? I lapped up the dish of cream. I've eaten the silly queen. I swallowed the cook with the dangling apron strings. I've eaten the pastry chef and his rolling pin. I've eaten the cute birds and fuzzy bees from their buzzing hives and fruit trees. And now I'm going to eat you." And the cat ate the mop-slopping servants that were washing the palace floor. And then it put out its paws, and on it walked, a paw, 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 a paw. Well, at the end of the corridor was the great big wooden door to the throne room. And in front of that great big wooden door, there were rows of guards in suits of metal armour with spears. And whenever anyone approached, they would all stand to attention with their spears, their armour clanking. And they did. And then they saw who it was that was coming towards them, just a cat. And they lowered their spears and they laughed. And they said, "Oh, nothing makes us chortle like the sight of a little cat." Oh, no. That cat, its tail began to twitch, and its ears folded back, and it said, "Little, who are you calling little? I lapped up the dish of cream. I've eaten the silly queen. I swallowed the cook with the dangling apron strings. I've eaten the pastry chef and his rolling pin. I've eaten the cute birds and fuzzy bees from their buzzing hives and fruit trees. I've eaten the mop-slopping servants that were washing the palace floor. And now I'm going to eat you." And the cat ate the ranks of clanking armoured guards that were guarding the palace door. And then it put out its paws, and on it walked, a paw, a paw, a paw. And because there was no one guarding the door any more, it nudged open the big wooden door to the throne room. A paw, a paw, a paw, a paw. Inside the throne room, there was the king, still sat on his throne, with his head in his hands, looking so tired. And on one side, there were all the nobles, moaning and complaining about everything they thought was wrong in the kingdom. And on the other side, there were all the wise people and the courtiers and the advisers that were meant to give the king and queen good advice, and they were just blabbering on, blah, 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 they droned. And then the king saw the cat. And oh, now the frown on his face disappeared, and he smiled, and he said, "However boring my day is, I'm always cheered up by the sight of a sweet, cute, friendly little cat." Oh no! That cat, its tail began to twitch, and its ears folded back, and it said, "Little, who are you calling little? I lapped up the dish of cream, I've eaten the silly queen, I swallowed the cook with the dangling apron strings, I've eaten the pastry chef and his rolling pin. I've eaten the cute birds and fuzzy bees from their buzzing hives and fruit trees. I've eaten the mop-slopping servants washing the palace floor. I've eaten the ranks of clanking armoured guards guarding the throne room door. And now I'm going to eat you." And the cat ate the nobles that moan, the advisers that drone, and the king off his throne. And then it stretched out its feet, and on it walked, a paw, a paw, a paw, a paw, hopping up to a window ledge, and then down to outside the palace, a paw, a paw, a paw. Well, that cat went walking till it found itself at the palace stables where all of the royal horses were kept. And just sitting outside there was a young boy. He can't have been more than 9 or 10 years old. He was just lying back enjoying the sunny day. He worked in the stable and he was chewing on a length of straw. Well, he saw the cat and he said, "Hello, cat. Aren't you a lovely little thing?" Oh, no. That cat, its tail began to twitch, and its ears folded back, and it said, "Little, who are you calling little? I've lapped up the dish of cream, I've eaten the silly queen, I've swallowed the cook with the dangling apron strings, I've eaten the pastry chef and his rolling pin, I've eaten the cute birds and fuzzy bees from their buzzing hives and fruit trees, I've eaten the mop-slopping servants washing the palace floor, I've eaten the ranks of clanking armoured guards guarding the throne room door, I've eaten the nobles that moan, the advisers that drone, and the king off his throne. And now I'm going to eat you." And the cat ate the little stable boy. And then on it walked, a paw, a paw, a paw. Inside the cat, inside its belly, all wet and warm, things were very crowded. Everyone was all jammed in there together. There was the king with no idea what was going on. There were the guards being careful not to poke anyone with the spears. There were the servants trying to mop up all of the mess. Well, there was so much mess inside the cat's tummy. There were the birds and the bees threatening to peck or sting anyone. There were the cook and the pastry chef giving each other a big hug and telling each other it was going to be okay. And there was the queen kneeling next to a little puddle of cream that the cat had lapped up. It was chaos and cacophony and noise and confusion. And last of all, there was the little stable boy. He thought, this is no way for a palace to run itself with everyone stuck inside a little cat. So he took that length of straw that he had been chewing and he reached up and he began to tickle the back of the cat's mouth. Tickle the back of the cat's mouth. Tickle it and tickle it. And meanwhile the cat that was a paw, walking along began to... It didn't like this tickly feeling in its throat. And so it began to... And everything came up out of the cat's belly in reverse order. Up came the stable boy. Up came the king from his throne, the advisers that drone and the nobles that moan. Up came the ranks of clanking armoured guards that were guarding the throne room door. Up came the mop-slopping servants that were meant to be washing the floor. Up came the cute birds and fuzzy bees from their buzzing hives and fruit trees. Up came the pastry chef and his rolling pin. Up came the cook with the dangling apron strings. Up came the queen and the dish of cream. And when it had finished, being sick, the cat looked at everyone around it and thought, well, maybe it's not so bad being little after all. And it licked its paws, and it went walking on its way. A paw, a paw, a paw. The end.
Oh, thank you so much, Tim, for sharing that funny tale. I loved the way Tim played with the words in that story. Did you manage to join in with some of them? A paw, a paw, a paw, a paw. I can just see that haughty little cat padding away to that rhythm. That story is a little bit like The Old Woman and Her Pig, where there's lots of word repetition which you can join in with. It's a good way of having fun and also learning some new words at the same time. Yippee! That little cat was a bit of a minky, wasn't she? I mean, what's wrong with being small anyway? It means you can curl up in a car or on a plane and sleep really easily. It also means you can fit into more small spaces for hide and seek. And I think you can run faster because you're light. And if you trip when you're running, you don't have so far to fall. So many good reasons to be small. Can you think of any other reasons that being small is a bonus? See if your grown-ups can think of any. Now, it's time to say hello to some small owlets who've recently joined our storytelling club. So, let's spread our wings and fly around the world with Story Owl to meet them. Let's begin in beautiful Hamburg in northern Germany to say hello to owlets Finola, who is 5. She turns 6 on September 20th. That's the same day we celebrate our podcast's 5th birthday. And Indigo, who is nearly 4. They've been living in Singapore and recently moved back to Germany. Finola and Indigo particularly like the trickster stories like Monkey Liver Soup and Baba Yaga the Witch stories and the Whistling Giants, and the Gingerbread Man because it was the very first story they ever heard on Super Great Kids Stories, and they love all those noises in it. Welcome to the club and wishing you happy times in your new home. And now, let's go south to Lanhydrock in Cornwall in the UK to say hello to Mila, who is 5. Mila drew a beautiful picture of the South African story, The Queen of the Tortoises. It has a rainbow-coloured peacock and a stunning, stylish giraffe. Lovely, well done. Mila loves the scary stories, especially The Men in Marble and The Golden Arm. And staying in the UK, let's go to beautiful Derbyshire to greet owlet Aoife, who is 6. Her favourite story is The Velvet Ribbon, told by Tiernan Duyeb. She's a big fan of all the spooky stories, but enjoys all of the podcast stories. And heading west to County Wicklow in Ireland, let's say hello to Freddie, who turns 6 on the 17th of August. Freddie and his mum Anna have been listening for 3 years and are very big fans. Freddie loves the Baba Yaga stories. Me too, Freddie. He also loves eggshell soup and the trickster stories. Mum likes the Toop stories. They say they're looking forward to the online live event in September with Jason and Amy. Well, I look forward to meeting you there. And let's fly southwest to the stunning Portuguese island of Madeira to say hello to Kiasmos, who is 7. His favourite stories are The Bloody Finger and The Brave Little Tailor. He loves listening to the show with his dad every night. And let's head west across the Atlantic Sea to Miami Beach in Florida in the US to say hello to Joseph Patrick, who is 6. He's been listening for about 3 years and loves Baba Yaga and the Anansi stories. He says he hasn't heard a single story which he doesn't like. What a lovely thing to say. Thank you, Joseph Patrick. We hope your first day at school this week goes very well. Staying in Florida, let's fly to Cape Coral to greet Owlet Zaida, who is 6. Zaida's favourite story is Mama Draga. She's been listening since she was 3 and she looks forward to a new story every Friday and has now started listening at bedtime too. Welcome to the club, Zaida. I'm glad you're enjoying the stories. Staying in the US, let's fly to Annapolis in Maryland to say hello to Owlets, Isabel, who is 5, and Javier, who is 3. Isabel starts kindergarten very soon, and both of them love the singing and the sound effects in the stories and are often walking around the house singing about mosquitoes whistling in your ear and sucking your blood. Oh, and they also like the story Ratoncito Perez, the Spanish mouse who is a bit like the Tooth Fairy. Heading down now to North Carolina to greet Owlet Walter, who is 8. His favourite stories are all of the scary stories, especially The Ghost of the Bloody Finger. You are not alone in your love of that one, Walter. Let's head north to Richfield in Minnesota now to greet Owlet Asher, who is 6. Asher particularly likes the scary stories, and her favourite is The 2 Silly Witches, told by Emily Hannah Gracebrook. Good choice, Asher. I'm flying west now to Seattle in Washington. Let's greet Owlet Isla, who turns 6 on August the 10th. I hope you had a happy day. She's been listening for 3 years and loves the Rainbird and Hey Ho. Yes, that's another of my favourites. That story is also in our super great book and has lovely illustrations of a Danish manor house and a cheeky little magic pot. Let's head on down to Los Angeles now to give a hoot out woo, 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 to Owlets Fiona, who is 5, and Amalia, who is almost 2. They love listening to the stories during long car rides. Fiona's favourites are Baba Yaga and Masha and the Big Brown Bear. Amalia loves hooting at the owl logo. Let's do it together, Amalia. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Woo, 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 woo. And that's it for Owlet Welcomes this week. We really appreciate your support. If you signed up with Apple and you'd like a hello on the podcast, we need you to contact us. Contact us through our website, supergreatkidsstories.com. More welcomes next week. And our Pick of the Week picture goes to 7-year-old Fiona from Pennsylvania in the US, who has drawn a marvellous picture of the story from Argentina, The Owl Girls and the Witch. I love the way the 2 little owls look as if they're having to flap their wings really hard to keep up in the air long enough to pick all those juicy oranges. And the grandmother has arrived to help rescue Rosa, who is lying on the ground. A lovely picture. Well done, Fiona. That story is included in our Super Great book, which comes out in September in the UK and November the 4th in North America and December in Australia. Send us your drawings, paintings or collages of your favourite story. Or you might like to draw a picture of this week's story with a not-so-little cat with the king and queen and pastry chef and stable boy all inside its tummy. You might even get a mention on the podcast as the artist who drew Picture of the Week. Send your drawings to facebook.com/supergreatkidsstories or to our website supergreatkidsstories.com and Story Owl will reply to you. And thank you to all of you who are subscribing to our podcast. We really appreciate those of you who feel you can support us on Apple or on Patreon. It helps us to pay our storytellers and it gives you access to all the super great scary stories and, depending on your level of subscription, to over 50 bonus stories. Plus, you'll get access to our Super Great Kids Stories Express, which cuts straight to the story. Great for listening to stories back to back. Visit our website for more details, supergreatkidstories.com. That's it for now. Remember, you'll get a discount if you order our Super Great book before it's published. And you'll be helping us to get the book noticed and share all those lovely traditional tales with more Super Great kids. You'll find the discount link in the news section on our website. Thank you for your support. Keep telling your stories and singing those songs. Have a happy week. This podcast was produced by Kim Normanton and David Smith at Wardour Studios in fabulous Fitzrovia in London.